Hello there.
Hi.
Last talk. Um, this one is brought to you by Typeform. And yeah, they will present you their development kit. And as always, you know that if you have any questions, you can leave those for the end. And all yours, Typeform.
You're muted, Nico.
Yep. You're right. I'm muted. Beginner. Today is my beginner issue. Yeah, no, very excited to be here. I hope you had the time to come up with some ideas after you saw the opening ceremony. Thank you for joining us for this intro to our new developer kit. Very excited to show you this because we haven't shown this to anybody else in the world. This is the first time it got out of Typeform. So you're going to be the first users, the first hackers to discover it, which means that something may be broken, but we really appreciate your feedback. But I believe that this team here has built an amazing thing, so it shouldn't be broken. But we have Sergi and Miguel that are working every single day on this developer kit, and they're going to introduce you to what it is, how you can use it, and all the crazy stuff you can build with it. Guys, all yours.
Hi everyone. Yes, so as Nico said, it's me and Sergi. We are engineers at Typeform, and we're using this session to present you some of the coolest, latest stuff we've been doing at Typeform, and hope you like it, and hope you can use it for this hackathon and do great stuff with it. We are working at a level that we want to build tools that are for developers at Typeform to open up Typeform, and there's plenty of tools that have been out there for a long time, and they've been working. Like we've been using, like we have our APIs. You can do anything with APIs. You can create forms. You can upload images to Typeform, manage themes, workspaces, manage responses from forms, and most importantly, you can use the webhooks we have to use whoever responds to our forms to generate new content and manage new content. So these have been out there for a long time. We've also been doing, like, we have a few SDKs that APIs are quite hard to use, but with the SDKs, you can leverage all those APIs and use them in an easier way. So we have our JS API client for JavaScript or TypeScript that you can use to get to most of these APIs, and you also have a newer Python wrapper for these APIs. And these tools have been around for a long time, and we've been using them quite extensively. Like within these new tools, we still use those APIs and all that stuff. But we have this new developer kit, and this is not accessible to the public yet. As Nico said, it's still quite new, and we want to see if you can have fun with it and test it and play around with it. So what is it exactly? So I'd like to explain a bit what it is all about. So this new Typekit is a framework for building integrations with Typeform, within Typeform. And yes, you can ask, yes, we have all these APIs and you can already do amazing things with it. Actually, you can do everything with it. But it's with this new framework, you can, sorry, with this new framework, what we want to do is, first off, we want to leverage the user experience. So having the APIs would result in people doing like very external apps that they don't seem to be part of Typeform, and they don't seem to relate to Typeform, and they're not optimal. So we opened up a series of UI components that you can use to build up your apps, and you can use it with any language you like, because it's just it's JSON, so you can just start up and display these components with whatever language you'd like. And also, most importantly, like, it's not just external applications. With this Typekit, we can build seamless integrations inside Typeform, as we'll explain a bit better later. And there's lots of entry points in Typeform that you can actually use to connect these applications or extract information out to the world. And most importantly is that we have, like, you can make these applications for yourself, like private applications, but you can also share them with the world. And we're building a new marketplace where you can see all the public applications and use them with Typeform. Sorry, the keyboard. So what exactly is it? What is in it? So what we have is a set of tools, a set of building blocks, as you can say, that allow you to build these applications. And these building blocks have different levels. So at the highest level, we call it surfaces. It's like we have entry points, different places inside Typeform that you can hook into and build on with your external applications. Within those surfaces, then you can have a series of views, like a series of steps, where you can use the components to configure whatever you need for your application. And these views allow you to do lots of interaction, lots of interact with the user, and you can have access to all our components, our UI pieces that you can use, like buttons that people can click, or input fields that people can fill up, or drop downs, or a series of components that you can use. So you don't need to do any visuals. You can actually hook up to our API and compose these elements so that you can configure the app and open it within specific spots in Typeform. So there's a lots of components. We have buttons, we have like section elements, we have error elements, we have drop downs, we have messages, titles, lots of elements in here that you can use. And you can use them with any language. So if you want to build something with Python, as long as you connect properly with our API and send the data properly, you can build up these elements in an easy way. So you can find these components here. We'll share the links. So let me just open up. So we've built this for HackUPC. We open the tools, and we have our sort of, we call it a kitchen sink, where you can see all our components and you can see how they're composed. We'll explain later, but communicating with our API, you just send some JSON data that composes the visual elements. So you have buttons, you have text inputs, you have single choices, multiple choices, drop downs, mapping elements. You can do authentication with it, etc. And we'll explain this tool later, because you can actually edit it here and change the content, so you can play around with it easily. But we'll talk about it later. Just go back to full screen. So yeah, it's this new tool. Like, I would like to maybe let Sergi explain how you can build this first app. First off, you'll need a Typeform account. I think you can open a free account, but I think you can easily open or use our premium account for a month. So you can reach out to us and we can open access for you.
Yep. I think this has already been discussed in the public Discord channel. So if you go there, you should see the information on how to create an account. Okay. So let's jump right into how to build your first application with the new developer kit. So if you go to the next slide. So it's simply, you need an HTTP server. You can build it with whatever technology you want, as long as you are ready to answer to 2 endpoints. The first one, next slide, please, is the initial view. This is the first endpoint that the front end will call. And it's basically, it is expecting from you to deliver a JSON with the initial view that should be rendered.
when the user starts installing the application. And something to notice here is the path that you will receive. It's /installation/ and a parameter, which is the installation ID. We won't get much into depth about this because this is something related to the internals of how the developer kit works. But basically, the thing you need to know is that an installation ID is something that you can use in your application to know what user is calling you and to store all the information that the user inputs in a database stored using this key. So next slide. This is an example of the JSON response that you could send for this initial view. In this case, I just created a simple view with a single section that it's numbered, and it has a title and a button in it. So most probably what will happen next is that the user will try to click on the Click Me button. So if you see the button definition in here, you can see that there's an action ID string. So this action ID is something that we will receive in the next endpoint call. So if you go to the next slide, whenever the user clicks or does any other action, and we have an action ID for that component, we will receive a new call, which is the update view call. And this is not a post, this is a put, and it's the same path. So what we should do in this case is return a new view, because let's say that after clicking the button, I want to show a new section saying, okay, you click the button, hey, congratulations, or something. So you can do basically anything you want, return a new view that is completely different, just change some bits of the previous one. And something to notice is that in the request body of the update call, you will receive two things. First of all is an actions array. For now, we will only receive one action at a time. But we made it into an array to make it future-proof. So yeah, it has the action ID that happened. So in this case, it's the button action ID because the user clicked on the button. You can see the block ID in this case is the component that was clicked and the type of action, which is a click. And the cool thing is that you also receive the previous view that was rendered. So what you can do is take this view, make some changes, and return the new updated view, or you can build a new one from scratch, whatever you prefer. It's up to your coding style. Next slide, please. So yeah, this is a simple representation of an integration flow. So first, as we said, we have the post, which returns the initial view, and then every yellow box is an action. An action can be a click on a button, user types on a text input, user clicks on a checkbox, user tries to authenticate with an external provider. That's also an action. So if you go to the next slide. So enough talk. I guess you will be willing to test this. So we prepared two examples in Glitch, because this way it's easier for you. You don't have to worry about having an instance with a public URL or whatever. You just need to click on Remix and it will generate a copy of the project and you can edit by yourself. So we have two examples. The first one is a bare bones server. It doesn't have anything. It just have the two endpoints, the post and the put. But I think it's just like a hello world still example. It doesn't do much, but it's a good starting point to see how the endpoints work. And then you have the second example. Yeah. So this is the first one, the playground. Yeah, as you can see, there's the initial view in there in line 32, and then the view update is not even implemented. But yeah, it's a hello world. So if we created another example that it's a little bit more complete, and this one is this one showcases some other stuff that you will usually face when trying to build your own integration, which is storing data, so persistence. also authenticating with an external provider. In this case, it's just with Typeform. So we need to get a Typeform token in order to use their API. In this case, we're just changing a form title. Okay. And then, can you come back to the slides? So apart from these two examples, I guess some of you will go hardcore and try to do it by yourselves. So next slide. In that case, we also prepared a URL in which you can include your own base API URL and the path name and the form ID in which you want to install the application. This will work the same with the glitch ones, but the link will be already embedded in glitch, so you don't have to memorize it or whatever. And yeah, you can test any application with this playground. Yeah, so now Miguel is testing the example one. You see that we have a field in there, which upon clicking save, it will update the title of the form with whatever he input. The form is controlled with this input here at the top. So in order to get the form ID, you will need to create a form in your account. And then if you click on a form to edit it, the form ID is in the URL. Again, this is also explained in the example of glitch itself, so you don't have to worry about it. Okay, so next slide. So we thought of giving you a couple of examples of kind of stuff that you can build using Typekit. For example, you could build a trivia generator. So that could be, well, that's something that we did at the beginning when testing the Typekit. So we created a simple like form creator that would read from this API and would fetch questions and would generate a type form. So you could have a quiz with a UI of Typeform. And then another option could be having a pizza delivery system, because who doesn't like pizza? And that could be just answering a Typeform, and upon receiving a response, we would register a webhook. So this webhook would order the pizza with the data that the user input with the Typeform. Next slide. So yeah, these are two basic examples. Again, just aim for the stars. We want you to be original, so dream big, and let's see what you come up with. Next slide. And I think this has been also brought up in the public channel, but there's this documentation that we created. And you have all the information you need about the Typekit API, a guide on how to get started, all the JSON schemas that we expect for every component. Everything is on there. The glitch examples are in there as well, and the sandbox links. Yeah, this is the getting started guide. It will guide you through the steps on how to do the initial request, the update views, all the components, what are the parameters, routes. Yep. The surfaces. For now, we only use one surface, which is called Connect. You don't have to worry about this. And we also provided you with a couple of examples about how to authenticate with Microsoft as an example of an external provider, and how to authenticate with Typeform. And if you have any other question that it's not solved using this documentation, feel free to ping us in the Discord channel. Or if you have any question.
I guess, yeah, we had some couple of questions in the chat. I think we can bring them as well.
Yep.
One question that was there was regarding the installation ID, what it means. I know you say we didn't have to take care of this right now, but we can explain eventually what it is.
Yes. So basically, when, let's say for now, most of integrations will work attached to a form. So basically, when you start to build, when you start to install an integration, you will receive this installation ID, which is just it's a string. It's an identifier that you can use to start storing things about what the user is doing. So, for example, you authenticate with Typeform and you want to store this token to use it later. So you want to store this token related to the user. So you can use the installation ID as the key for your database. And then later on, when you receive another request with that installation ID, you know that you can use this token that you received before. It's a way of identifying the same session across all the requests that you will receive, basically.
Yeah, a good analogy is probably a session ID.
Yes.
Yeah. For development purposes, you can just put your own numbers, whatever you want. Like usually when we're testing, we use like 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 for one installation, then you change the number. So you can actually, like in our, when you're implementing it, you can just generate the number of your own and use it. So,
yep.
But Typeform provides that installation ID within the application when you actually hook up into a specific surface in Typeform.
Nice. We have two other questions regarding the UI and the whole concept. There was one about responsiveness, and another one in terms of like how is the JSON rendered.
Okay. So about responsiveness, I would say it's not 100% ready because mostly Typeform is not 100% ready. So yeah, I would say that's some work that we still need to do. And about the JSON rendered, we internally are using React. So basically, we kind of map the JSON that we receive into some React props. But this is totally internal on how we do it, and there are no customization options at the moment.
Yeah, so the thing to understand here is like instead of giving you a library of components that you would use only in React or that you will only use in Vue and like they will be attached to a framework, a UI framework, here you're just manipulating JSON. And we provide you with certain properties that you can change. So if it's an error message, it's going to turn red. If you say it's a warning message, it's going to turn yellow. So we give you just those few options. But it works with any language that you want as soon as you're able to manipulate JSON. You don't have to worry about the UI. And for the responsiveness, we take care of rendering this inside the Typeform product. And so whatever it fits inside will work. But yeah, we don't have an optimized thing for mobile.
So it's very smooth. It's like a web application. So you have all these overs and all these interactions like details. And the only delay we have is that whenever you click on something that you want your application to react to, there's always a request to a server that then returns a response. So there's always that delay that is in between the UI that you are using and the sending and returning the data onto your service.
We have one last question from Mike regarding a bearer token and the authentication, I guess.
Yes, so we provide an example for you to authenticate with Typeform, and you can authenticate through our Auth20 service. And so yes, we expect that when you build that application, that the UI requests you to do authorization, that you log in onto Typeform or whatever service through OAuth, and we return the token. And then the token, because you have the installation ID, you can store the token in your application, like in your service, so that it's used whenever you need it. So it's application's responsibility to store that token, but we provide tooling that helps you do the authentication and getting that token back. So it's quite easy for you to do OAuth with TypeKit and get the token back. That is all explained in the documentation, so it should be quite easy to follow and do it.
And so that works for getting access to the Typeform API if you need to do manipulation on the forms, retrieving the forms, modifying the form, setting up a webhook, and this type of things. If you want to hang up with another API that doesn't use OAuth, you can always ask for, in a text field, give me the API key, and it's whenever the user clicks the button, you will receive this API key and you store it on your site. Other question. Thank you. What does it mean?
Yes. So what does the server mean? So server is your application. So this is just a HTTP server. So whatever you do with it, you are sending requests, getting responses from Typeform, and so your application is always a server. We call it server, and within your application, you can do whatever you want. We guarantee that we give you an installation ID to make sure that with that installation ID, you can associate all the data you have and store the data locally. And that's pretty much it. So your application will be a simple HTTP server application.
Yeah, there's no front end as we usually think about front end. So there's nothing about an HTML page that has CSS, styling, and all the stuff. We really take care of this for you. So it's really a backend server exchanging JSON. Last question that we have here from Javier regarding anonymity. So I don't know if what you have in mind, Javier, is anonymity on people answering a Typeform or people interacting with your app. I think there are two different things. In the fact that when it's like someone answering the Typeform, they're anonymous in the sense where if you don't collect any personal information, so if you don't ask for the name, the email address, or their phone number, we have no way to identify them. The data that we collect are an IP address and a network ID that identifies them to know like this is a unique user, but it's not something that is shared with you, and we don't really track this across the whole Typeform infrastructure. So just at the moment someone interacts with it. Guys, you probably have better answer than me on this, but
yeah, we also do not store any data. All we give is this installation ID that your application can use, and you're responsible for storing the data that you need.
Yeah. If that was not your question, Javier, please let us know. All right, other question. Is it integrable into another page?
So this is, you have to understand that this is meant only to be shown inside Typeform. So you are actually giving directions to Typeform on how an integration flow should be rendered, but inside Typeform.
So Miguel, maybe you can open a Typeform tab and show what is the existing stuff right now if someone goes on to Typeform. So this is the form. This is where you create your form, you ask your questions, but now you can create an app inside, and that will go under the form that you had was perfect already. If you go in the Connect panel, this is where right now people interact with the apps. and the app that you're building will be displayed here in this surface. And so if you click on one app that is already open, you can see the view. Like you have the Notion one, for example, that's there, or the Excel.
Or the Excel one.
You can delete it and start again.
Yeah.
And you see, so this is how it's rendered inside Typeform. For the end user that is going to be using your app, they are inside Typeform. They want to interact with your app. And this is how it's going to be rendered. And this whole UI is using the things that we described earlier, where it's exchanging JSON and say, okay, this is a button, this is a description, all those steps.
Also, in terms of security, there's no way to figure out what the server is that you are using. So it's totally anonymous because we use our API, we use a proxy, so no one can know exactly what call you are doing where. You just see like the Typeform call, so it's totally isolated. No one can go do some phishing to try to figure out with installation IDs what data could be in there.
Yeah, that's a good point. Yeah, so Miguel is showing you the different steps of like, okay, for example, this is an integration with Excel where you do the first step, you connect with your Typeform account. Now you connect with another service. And at the end, you have been connected to both stuff. And now we can, we can retrieve some data on both sides and do something with it. Yeah, I don't know if anybody else has more questions. We'll be here to help you and to guide you. If you have a hint or something you want to try and you don't know if is that the correct framework, is that the correct APIs to try, come talk to us and we'll be happy to discuss about your ideas.
Cool. This development kit looks awesome. I'm sure hackers will have a lot of fun building on top of it. Thank you very much for this presentation, Typeform. Thank you to all the attendees. If you hackers have any further questions, make sure to drop by Typeform's channel in Discord. And just as a reminder to everybody, if you missed some part of the talk or you want to watch it again, you will have it available on YouTube as soon as we upload it. So you'll be able to watch it as many times as you please. And I think that's a wrap. Thank you, everybody, and happy hacking. Bye.
Awesome.
Bye.